All right, so we are live and ready to go. So, welcome everyone. I am really glad you're here. Today we are talking about something that a lot of our biotech professionals have, but not many people stop to think about it this way. So, your equity compensation honestly might be your biggest financial asset at some point in your life. So it might not be your 401(k), it might not be your savings account. And for many of our professionals in biotech, this big financial opportunity is sitting inside of company stock. So it might be RSUs, like your restricted stock units. It could be stock option. But here's the tricky part. Most people never really actually were taught about how to make decisions around this. So you might understand, when shares vest, of course. You might know when the grants show up, right? But the bigger picture is oftentimes just unanswered. Like, should I hold this? Should I sell some of this? How's that going to affect me? How much is too much exposure to one company? Like, all of those things might be running through your head. And if so, even if one of them is, or through the heads of someone you know and love, hopefully you can get something out of our conversation today. So I'm April Pope, certified financial planner, and I help professionals think through these kinds of decisions so their money actually supports the life that they're building. So it was one time, of course, all of these usually come out of a story of something that I've experienced, but I had one of our biotech professional clients say something that kind of made me laugh a little bit. He was like, "So, just so you know, April, I think my strategy for company stock is basically, I guess, I'll just hold it. Like, that's my strategy." And I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's probably what's actually happening. That might be the right situation for you. I don't know. I didn't know at this point. We were just onboarding, so I didn't know his whole financial story and his whole financial life. So I don't know if that was the right answer, but he's like, that's what I do. I just hold it. And that's incredibly common. He was not alone in that. People are busy running projects, managing teams, getting drugs approved and trials and dealing with regulatory deadlines. I mean, all of the things. So suddenly they look up and they're like, huh, this is interesting. A lot of my net worth is tied to one company. And it might be a company that you love and it might be amazing and they're phenomenal and they're always going to be the best company in the world. But sometimes it's hundreds of thousands of dollars that are in that one company, sometimes millions. And what most people didn't really do is actually choose that strategy. It just slowly happened over time. And so that's really what we want to differentiate here. So, key point number one that we're going to talk about, our equity grows quietly. So one reason it sneaks up on people is just equity compensation isn't like loud and, annoying and knocking on your door. It just kind of grows quietly. You receive a grant, maybe another one next year, then another one, and some shares might vest, maybe some more shares might vest. And you look at that statement and you're like, I don't want to do that. I don't know. This is great. I have an amazing company. They have a great benefits package and I'm growing and this is awesome. And then you look at the account and think like, but wow, that's actually like a lot of money, like a really meaningful amount of money. And the thing about equity compensation, it doesn't always have to feel like the money, works the same way as your paycheck does. So people are often, they don't ask this real important question like, how much of my life is tied to this one company? Good, bad, or indifferent? How much of my life is tied to this one company? So what happens is usually people just kind of do nothing and just know that that's still a decision. And I'm not going to, I'm joking, but I'm really here to I want people not to feel bad about what you're doing, but just being aware that even if you do nothing, that's actually a decision. So that's the most common thing we see with companies with stocks is actually just not really having a strategy. So people just hold everything. And it's not because they carefully analyze and decided holding is the best fit. It's just making that decision feels complicated. There's taxes, there's things to do. I don't know. I don't need it. That's another thing we hear a lot. Like, I'm good. My paycheck's good. I don't need that stuff on the side. I'll use it later, which might be the right thing. But there are vesting schedules. There's blackout windows. Suddenly it's like what this decision that you might have thought would have been easy, or I'll deal with that later. Doing nothing is really still a decision that's being made. And sometimes it leads people to waking up years later realizing a very large percent of their company or of their wealth is tied to this one company. So the goal here is not, I'm not advising anybody on selling stock. We can't even give advice like that. I'm not telling you what to do here. This is a webinar, educational purposes only. That's my disclaimer. So that's not the goal here, but it's definitely not, I don't want you to panic. But what we see is many people build significant wealth through these equity compensation and packages. And so the real question we want you to ask is, does your current approach actually support the life you're trying to build? And for some people, holding a meaningful portion makes sense. For others, possibly gradually diversifying over time feels more comfortable. To each his own. And for some, that equity becomes a tool to help them fund other goals, like buying a home, investing elsewhere, like maybe building long-term financial independence. Like there's not one right answer. But there is value in having a strategy in place instead of just kind of letting it sit there or just, guessing. That's what we want to bring home today. So, your biotech equity may quietly become one of the most significant financial assets you have, and that is amazing. What a gift. So, most professionals are going to default to simply holding everything, and the real opportunity here is to step back and ask yourself whether that approach is what is going to support your long-term goals. Of course, you're thinking, well, what are my long-term goals? You got to set those first. But here's a simple action step you can do right away. Take a look at your equity compensation and ask yourself, if I were starting fresh today, if I woke up on this beautiful Sunday, sunny morning, um, would I intentionally go and choose to hold all of this wealth that I have in one company? No matter, even if it's your own company, no matter what company it is. If the answer is yes, great. Then maybe you're good. Then you don't need to change anything right now. But just notice, just think about that question. Would I intentionally hold everything in one company? And when I say everything, that may not be you. You may have different investments. Maybe you're married, your spouse has investments elsewhere. You have old retirement accounts somewhere else. You may have your wealth diversified. But sometimes what we literally see is the paycheck, the 401k, the stock options, every single thing, any dollar that they have invested is inside of the one company. And then when we look at the stock options, of course, or the RSUs, those are all company stocks. So it's literally tied to the company. So that's what we're talking about when we say is everything attached to one company. All right. So think about that question. Do we have any questions right now that anyone wants to ask? This is the beauty of coming on live. You can ask questions. If you're watching the replay, we do not keep the questions on the replay. So you may just see us go to the end of the presentation, but we will answer questions now for the live group. Okay, that was amazing. Thanks for all those questions. We appreciate them. I hope you got some good value out of that. So, thank you again for joining us. Hopefully, you have some takeaways you can do, even if there's nothing you do, but ask yourself, if I woke up today, would I choose to have all of my wealth or majority of my wealth in one single company? No matter how amazing that company is, no matter if you started that company yourself, no matter what you think, would you choose that today, or did it just happen gradually over time? And now you may want to step back and evaluate if that's still what is going to help you reach your long-term goals. I'm April Pope, certified financial planner and personal CFO. Thank you so much for joining us today.